Good morning, and many thanks for joining the webinar today. My name's Richard Bates. I'm a Sales Director for EBS. For those of you that don't know us, we're Electronic Business Systems. We're based just outside of Birmingham, near Spaghetti Junction, and we've got a UK reach for the Sage 50 and Sage 200 market. We've been established just over 40 years. We're a long-standing Sage partner, and having spent a number of the years working with Eureka, who joins us today, who's going to show you the Cloud Data Exchange product. Obviously, you're welcome to ask questions, and we'll try our best to answer those, or Alan will. Obviously, if you do need any more information after the session, feel free to contact myself or anybody here at EBS. I will pass you over now to Alan, if you're ready, and I'll let you do the demo for Cloud Data Exchange.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate the opportunity to sharing our Cloud Data Exchange with your customers and prospects alike. Okay, Eureka have a product in the marketplace today called Data Exchange, which is a product that's been operating for over 12 years in the UK, and we've got about 1,500 or so customers using that product. And from the knowledge we've gained over those 12 years, some 4 years ago, we decided to design, develop, and deliver a cloud-based data exchange solution. And we had 3 core objectives when planning our design of Cloud Data Exchange. 1, it had to be cloud-based. Everything is going to the cloud, so our integration platform had to be cloud-based. And it had to be secure. One of the major points we learned with Data Exchange is that the data wasn't secure, and that was one of the major points our customer base was asking for. So we went out looking for a platform to run our Cloud Data Exchange on, and we opted for the Google App Engine. That was predominantly down to the security of that platform. It encrypts all the data to and from the relevant products. It's also a great brand, as we know. People like Bloomberg, Pizza Hut, PayPal, Google, and other major corporates use the Google platform to run their system on. Objective number 2 was for the product to be platform independent. So it's not a sole Sage 200 product or a sole Sage 50 product. It can integrate both. So that's Sage 50, Sage 200 Standard, and Sage 200 Professional. We have a multitude of third parties that we connect to. We can connect to Salesforce, we can connect to Magento, WooCommerce, Amazon, eBay, Shopify, and many more that you will see once we enter the product. And our third objective was the scalability of the solution. Our product fits the Sage 50 market, and some of those clients process in excess of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 transactions per month. But we do have large Sage 200 clients processing in excess of 500,000 transactions a month. There is no issue with the size of the transaction level. We have one large corporate who uses NetSuite, who uses in excess of 1 million transactions per month. We have no ceiling. The Google platform is as big as we want, so there's no issue with scalability either. Ultimately, our solution will dramatically reduce the amount of manual processing, eradicating the risk of error keying, and generally makes your business more slicker and quicker. I have one customer in mind at the moment, a company called Misguided, who run about 30 websites, and they use the previous product, Data Exchange. Today they no longer use Sage 200, but in their early day, turning over 8 million per year, they had Data Exchange processing tens of thousands of orders per week, automating their order processing from e-commerce straight into Sage. Prior to that, they had 55 employees keying those orders. And fortunately for the business, they reduced that workforce to 5. We currently have about 130 to 140 live sites operating and using Cloud Data Exchange on a daily basis. We've probably got 25 to 30 or so in work in progress, either at implementation stage, at project stage, or at order stage. So we have about 160 or so sold sites, with over 3 million plus transactions going through the system every month and growing fast. Let's have a look at Cloud Data Exchange. So let me highlight, the product is what's called an iPaaS. It is a platform as a service, an integration platform as a service. And each platform has its own, or each product has its own connector. So here you'll see the connector for Sage 200 Standard, for Sage 200 Professional, and Sage 50 here. Those are the ones we're going to focus on today. But you can see everything within this grid can integrate with anything within this grid. So we could integrate Sage 50 to Sage 200 if we wanted to, integrate Sage 50 to eBay, Sage 200 to Shopify, WooCommerce, Magento. So you see anything within here can integrate with anything in here. They're independent connectors. Let's look at the terminology. So within Cloud Data Exchange, we have dashboards, connectors, integrations, and templates. We're going to first of all look at the dashboard. This is where the client can log into and see how close, I guess, they're sailing to the wind. So I'm on a transaction allowance of 50,000 transactions per month. My next usage reset is on the 31st of May. Please note it's a monthly subscription product based on your transaction allowance. The entry point for Sage 50 is 1,000 transactions per month, up to unlimited transactions. Sage 200 entry point is 20,000 transactions per month, and that also can go unlimited. A transaction is when an order comes off, say, an e-commerce website and hits Sage. If we're creating a customer from the website, that would also be a transaction. Going back to orders, it's not the lines on the order. Each order, no matter how many lines are on the order, that is one transaction. You might want to send stock or stock levels to our website. Each stock item is a transaction. So generally, that's where the transaction allowance is sort of made for. So every time we do a stock level update, and if you've got 1,000 stock items and they all need updating, that is 1,000 transactions. However, we only update the stock items that have changed since the last update. So if only 50 have changed their stock level compared to Sage, then we'll only update 50. We also have within the system, because we're keen on security, we have a two-factor authentication within the system, as well as the security and encryption we have transferring the data from product to product. So this is the connector function. So the connector is the widget that hooks onto the platform. So I'm going to create a connector here for WooCommerce. So I'm going to click on WooCommerce. It takes me to the part of the system that allows me to log in to the defined WooCommerce site domain that we're integrating with. We'll call this EBS sales. We're going to hook on to a dummy domain in this case for demonstration purposes. We're going to hook on using the WooCommerce key and WooCommerce secret key to give us access to the WooCommerce API. And I'm going to create, excuse me, that connector. There we have our EBS sales connector. So that will allow me access to the EBS WooCommerce website. I already have a connector created for Sage 200 and Sage 50, and I'm going to run this presentation utilizing Sage 50. So I'm going to now create an integration. Now we've got our connectors created, I'm going to create an integration. That's bringing two connectors together. So we're looking for the export connector. So the orders are coming out. So this is a sales order import. The orders are coming out of WooCommerce. I'm going to look for our EBS connector. And you'll notice if you've got multiple connectors, we would create an integration per website. I'm going to add that connector. I'm now going to go to Sage 50. Click on Sage 50. Add the connector. So this is exactly the same as it would be for Sage 200. We just connect to the Sage 200 connector. So what you can see on screen, on the left-hand side of the screen are the field names that we can access for the WooCommerce API. And here we have the field names for Sage. So what we're doing here is mapping fields from Woo to fields in Sage. This is a template that I created before just to make it slicker and quicker. So we're mapping the date created in Woo to the order date in Sage, the order number coming from Woo going to the customer order number field in Sage, addresses, postcodes, phone numbers, SKU. One point to note, so the SKU must match the stock code in the receiving accounting system. So if we're selling widgets and the widget is AJ001 in Woo, it must be AJ001 in Sage. If we're integrating with Sage 200 and the stock codes don't match, we can, with a bit of dev in Sage using a stock alias, process those orders. However, Sage 50, it has to match. Quantity to quantity. So as you see, we just map the fields from field to field. We also have what we call default import lines, where we want to force a function, i.e. all these orders are going to go to account reference Woo001, because this is a consumer website and we want all the orders to go into a default sales ledger account and ship to the delivery address, because they're one-off customers. However, if I have a business-to-business e-commerce account and I want to create the order from Smith Limited to Smith Limited in Sage 50 or 200, we can do that by mapping the WooCommerce customer ID to the Sage ID. We've also got the ability to add notifications, and we switch on and put an email address or a group email address or a couple of email addresses to allow the system to email the relevant team or individual when the orders hit Sage. We can also create a schedule, so we can schedule it by days of the week and say we'll set a time here and we'll set this time here. So we can automate the process to be as frequent or infrequent as we like, or we can set this up incrementally and say, let's do it every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes or every hour or every 2 hours. We switch the integration on and we save the integration and come out. Let me just switch that off. So here is our integration. So this is sales orders coming in from a WooCommerce site, in this case hitting Sage 50 or Sage 200. We could run the integration manually. Ignore the schedule at this point and run it manually. It will now start running to the schedule, but I can run it manually if I like. I can switch the integration off so that it won't process any orders. I can edit the integration, go in and change some fields, maybe add notifications, change the schedule. Here we have the export filter date. So if our guys have been spending 2 days getting your system all integrated and all working, you might want to perhaps say, we haven't processed any orders since Monday. Let's put the export filter date on the 25th. So the next integration, it will look back to the 25th of April. Information, who created it, when it was created, when it was last run, and when it's next likely to run. Now this piece here is for additional development work. If you have a complex site, and it's not just a case of mapping field to fields and using default lines, at the bottom, as you saw previously, you might want to filter something, or you might want to have a calculation, or only bring orders out of Woo that have been paid, or only bring orders out that include carriage, or whatever rules. We can add additional development work so that the integration works as you require. We can edit the notifications and we can edit the schedule. This is a sales order import. We might have a stock level export here. So i.e. stock levels leaving Sage and going to Woo, or any other platform, be it Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce, VisualSoft, and others. Here we could have customers being created in Sage and going to the website, or vice versa. When all the integrations are set up and created, it produces a log. There's my orders coming in. It's obviously a demo site, so it's going to fail, but you have a full audit log of everything that happens. And if I go to the field guide and I go to WooCommerce, this part of the system informs the user what the product does out of the box. So we can export customers from Woo. So those customers can go to any other connector, products and orders. We can import an order update, and that would be a status update from Sage to say the goods have been dispatched. So then it could send it into Woo so the customer can see. We can send customers from Sage to Woo, products from Sage to Woo, orders from Sage to Woo. On occasion, a business-to-business site, the customers want to see their orders back in Woo. And a customer's update, that's a new one on me. I think that's just been added. We're adding to different connectors regularly. And if we look at Sage as a connector, we'll just look on Sage 50 initially. We have all these imports. So we can import all this information and export all this information. So we're exporting the information out of Sage, all this data can go to another connector. And if we look at Sage 200, we've got all this information. Sage 50 and Sage 200 are our core accounting solutions that we integrate with. So there's a warehouse stock levels, multiple warehouse stock levels. Or if we just get the one warehouse, stock code, stock name, free stock quantity and analysis codes. As you know, Sage 200 has 20 analysis codes. So that's another field that we use when we're moving stock, because perhaps you might not sell everything that you sell on the web. So you've only got a set amount of products that you sell on the web, and using the Sage 200 stock analysis code, we could perhaps select code 1 or 2 and say that is a web sold product, so that when we export the stock to site, we're exporting the correct products. Sage 50 has a little tick box in it already, so we just work off that little tick box. So as you can see, very comprehensive, various products, ConnectWise, eBay, Amazon, EPOS now, which is an EPOS system, Iconography, another web platform, Magento. We've also got a connector, Linworks. So Linworks is a major player in e-commerce integration, but they really haven't got true integration back into Sage 50 or Sage 200. Now, Cloud Data Exchange can pick all the orders and everything else that's coming via the Linworks system and process that through our Sage system. My name is Alan James. You've been listening to my presentation covering Cloud Data Exchange. I'd like to hand back to Richard now. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Brilliant, Alan. Thank you very much. As you can see there, it's such a powerful tool sitting there in the cloud and links to a number of different connectors and software. So it's not just Sage 50, Sage 200. There's lots of flexibility there. We've not had any questions yet. Obviously, if we do get any questions come through, we can respond to those either via the chat or via email. But just take this opportunity, just once again, thanks ever so much, Alan, and any questions, please feel free to contact us.